Thank you for tuning in to Serendipity with Sheila, the podcast that helps you align your mission with your passion. As a universal master energy healer, Sheila can help you awaken and align with your true self so you can live the purposeful life you were made for. Let's get started.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sheila, and this is Serendipity with Sheila, and I am Reverend Sheila B. Tillich. Welcome to my beautiful podcast. And today we're going to also have my beautiful guest speaker that we had, Dr. Thomas Iwankow. And today is going to be the second talk that we have. So a continuation where we left off. But for those of you who didn't hear the first one, I'm going to do a little bit of a bio here so that you kind of know who Dr. Thomas is. All right. Dr. Thomas was born and raised outside of Buffalo, New York. He was raised as a practicing Catholic and the oldest of 5 brothers. After marrying and raising his now 4 kids, he continues his doctoral studies in leadership. It was then that he began wondering about the universe and particularly this idea of God in 2019. Dr. Thomas really began discovering more about himself and the universe. Recently, Dr. Thomas D. Iwankow has been researching and exploring this idea of life. Who are we? Where do we come from? And how does the idea of God fit into our purpose and path? He is a healer, trained in Reiki, but often is flowing in the way he is in movement. He's moving. He's moving forward, people. He began speaking light language in 2021 and continues to research and teach on the idea of life and purpose. Dr. Thomas, welcome to my show again. This is number 2 of our podcast. Hello.
I am glad to be here. It is wonderful, just fun. You know, this is what we've talked about the first time. What we're talking about today is just, I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. I think it's extremely interesting. Now, mind you, I guess we were talking about me, so
yeah.
I must like the fact that we talk about me too.
Well, you know what? This is great because, you know, my podcasts are all about serendipity. And how do you live your life's purpose? What is this mission all about? You know, and when we ended the last podcast, it was about your ability to channel light language. And also in your bio, it was that he began speaking light language in 2021 and continues to research and teach on the idea of life and purpose. And I wanted to continue this is because we are both channelers. All right. And a lot of people don't know what is channeling. What does that mean? What does that mean? And you started talking about it right at the very last of our podcast. So we're going to continue with that. And we're just going to let it flow.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I'm going to take us back a step because as you're mentioning the channeling and all that, it reminded me of what I needed, what happened to me to allow me to actually get the light language and go to that point. And so I'm going to share this because it's we ended, and I was talking at the end of the last one about we build and we learn as we grow, and we can't be thrown everything at once. If we were ever thrown everything at once, and this does happen when we reincarnate and come back into our lives, we have the choice and we can choose to keep much of that knowledge. So a lot of the people that you may meet or you may know that are channeling early or talking to spirit early or have this enlightenment early on, they were doing it at a high level in the previous life and chose to have it early on come to them, which is great. But if we get all that knowledge at once, I talked about our path being like it's up this hill, and it's never ending hill because there's no end to it. But we slowly go and we grow up that. But if we are just placed 100 feet up on the hill, without that knowledge, without that understanding of how we got there or what it means to be where we are, and how to move forward, we are much more easily susceptible to slipping back down.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it happen with people. I've also seen it happen with people where they just assume that's the pinnacle, the peak. There's so much more. And so like with myself, yes, I jumped some steps, climbed a little faster, had a little falls, kept on going up, putting it all together. So we're mentioning light language, mentioning channeling. So I knew something was going to happen with me. I knew it. I had to open myself up to being able to do that. And I would have these intense moments ever since my 2019 experience that thing came out. I would have these intense moments sometimes where it was almost like a gag reflex. Like I had to throw up, but it wasn't like it was all in my throat. It wasn't anywhere else. I was like, what is going on? And I had this strong sense that something was trying to channel through me. Someone was trying to channel through me. I had no idea how to do it. I thought I had to leave my body. I thought I had to get into this state, go through this whole setup. And so I'm going to flash forward because it happened multiple times, but nothing ever came. And I'd be like, you can't see it, but I had my mouth open. I'd be like gaping, like, just come out. Whatever it is you want to say, come out.
Yeah.
And there was one time I sat for 15 minutes in the bathroom thinking, am I going to throw up? What is going on? So fast forward. Last October-ish, October, November, can't remember exactly. It was October, end of October. We did a fire walk.
Yes, we did.
And so you were there with Maddie, and we had multiple people there. And I wanted to go because I wanted to walk on fire. Just, hey,
we have another one coming up. We have another one coming up next month in September
10th, right?
That's right.
And so we're at the fire walk, and it's not just about walking on the fire. It's about yourself and what you need. It's always what you need at this moment. Each person is going to get something different.
Exactly.
And I remember the first activity we were going to do. And as Maddie was describing the activity, she had us write down on a Post-it note our intention for this activity, the purpose of this activity. I had no idea what's right. And then she described the activity, and I went, oh, bleep.
There you go with those exclamation marks.
Yes.
Huh? It's like,
I went, oh, bleep.
Oh,
and I knew exactly what I had to write. And I said, the purpose of this is to remove the blockage from my throat chakra. Whatever it is that it's called. And so that's what that purpose was. And so I did the activity with that intention, with that purpose. And we went through the rest of the day, which is a lot of fun. Walked on fire a couple of times, which was great. And the next weekend, I happened to get my that week. So that happened on that Saturday. Sometime on that Monday or Tuesday, I talked to Carrie, who was my Reiki master, and I said, you know what? It's probably time I do this Reiki one. You've got a class coming up this weekend, right? She goes, I do. And they've been telling me you have to do it, but to wait for you to say. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So the following Saturday now, I go and I get my Reiki 1. And we're going through, it's very informal, just me, her, and someone else that already had the first 2 levels of Reiki, which once again, it's a healing of the chakras, aligning them, balancing them, just flowing the energy through you, through the body. It's really more about throwing the energy through the body. You are just the conductor, directing the energy where to go and where you need to focus it. But we're going through, we learn, and then I go to my practice. And the other student is laying down there. And I start with the chakra. Doesn't matter. I started with the chakras, is moving down the head, moving past the throat. And I get to the heart chakra and the solar plexus. Around that area, all of a sudden I start speaking light language. And I'm like, am I doing it? What is going on here? Literally, I'm like, what am I going on here? And I see Carrie, the teacher, out of the corner of my eye, and she raises her fist up like, yes, keep going. And so I keep going, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm really doing this. And afterwards we talk, goes, yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. They're all excited. They're all happy for you. You're speaking. All right. And so that was for me. It had to take the steps. I had to do. We often, and I'll be told this by people. One in particular, I've been told we can put out our intentions. We have to put our intentions with emotion and feeling to know what it's like to have that which you want. It can't just be putting out there. You got to feel it and know what it's like to have it and feel like you have it now. But you have to take a step. You have to commit yourself in a step. It doesn't have to be a giant leap where you're doing all the work. You just have to step in that direction of that which you want, to verify and say to yourself, yes, I truly want this, to make it truth, to make those that are above you, to guide your spirit, your energy with you, to move in the same direction. Because it knows your truth. You and your deepest self, your higher self, your soul knows your truth. Your mind sometimes plays tricks on you because your ego and your soul are in battles with each other. Another story, another topic. But you need to take those steps. And so I finally put the right intention on when I did it at the fire walk to what that one activity was. And we actually did like 3 activities that all are around that area. And so it was like, oh my goodness, I knew exactly why I was there and what I was doing. And so I started speaking it. And I started speaking it. I'm not going to go into the other section. I started speaking it. And randomly, throughout the day, it will just come out. Like it's already come out once or twice already today. It just comes out for whatever's going on. And to me, I've learned, and I've done it when I've done a couple healings. In fact, I had to tell my daughter this one time when I was doing a healing on her. It came out afterwards. I said, that's just a language of soul, speaking to the soul. Don't worry, it's not some crazy thing I'm doing or that. Because people are always skeptical of it. Now, since we're on this topic, I'm going to go there because it came. There is a reason to be skeptical of it at times.
Yes.
Because it is not just like any language in this world. Any language in this world, there's multiple versions of language. You have English, French, Arabic, Japanese, whatever. You can go on forever. Okay. We also have. This is another topic for us for a whole other day, not even what we've talked about. When you get into the lower vibration, into the low vibration stuff, they speak a language too. Now, there is a difference between them. And you must be coming from that point of low vibration darkness in order to truly put it out there. But when you're in higher vibration, you're up in your own self and yourself, it will always come out as positive and good and glory and love and light. Because it is. And it is from the soul to soul. And I've many times in my light language, you can't see me because we're talking here, but I would take my hand out there and it's almost like turning a dial because that person has asked for an activation of some sort. And it's just my way of doing that and symbolizing that's what's going on for me to know. But if you have a low vibration near you, you can speak a lower vibrational form of it. And I've done that too. My past has allowed me to do that. Do I do that now? No. I've raised myself up to put that way behind me. But that's why people can worry about it. But it is so good. And it can be so healing and calming. And when you put it all together in the life that you're doing, it's there. Now, what I have learned when I do the light language, it's also a form of channeling. Because I will do it and I will have these conversations and it's so funny because sometimes I'm having conversations with, I don't know who, but my mind is saying one thing, my voice is saying something else. It's like I'm having a conversation with myself in a way that I'm understanding what I'm saying, but don't know what I'm saying, but we're having this conversation back and forth because I just know what's going on. And there are other times where I'll be in a session with someone, or I'll be talking to someone, or I'll be doing a live and the light language just starts. And I'll be telling myself, can I stop? And I open my mouth and it keeps on coming out. And it keeps on coming out. And so that gets into the channeling that we wanted to talk about. There are so many different ways of channeling. One thing that straight across the board, flat out, the number one thing we all must understand when we get to anything when it comes to who we are and our spirituality. What Sheila can do, what I can do. We talked about Lee Carroll. We talked about Esther Hicks. We can talk about Marilyn Harper. We can talk about anyone. When anyone channels, when anyone does anything, what your guides tell you is always the way it is for you. It is what you need to hear. It is how it works for you because of how you are in your makeup, your DNA. Just like if someone took a pill for heart medicine, doesn't mean it's going to impact that person the same way it does the next person, or the next person, the next person. We are all unique in so many different ways, not just in our cellular biological makeup, but in our spiritual makeup as well. We are so different, and we can do things different ways. Now, you can imitate someone. And you can practice someone, and guess what? That will become the way that works for you because that's what you put out there. And that's what you intended to be in the lesson and the practice for you. But ultimately, it's going to work when you are ready, when you have done the work to put yourself at a point where you can understand and accept who you are and that this can happen.
Absolutely.
You don't have to step away from your body. You just have to let it flow and be in the right state. And it comes out. And the message is clear. The message is simple. When we start light language or when we start channeling, we will always speak fast first because we are not ready for it.
Here's your sign to register and save your seat for the next Lightworkers Connection Circle. The Lightworkers Connection Circle is about living your soul's purpose as a lightworker and connecting with others who are on the same spiritual path. It is a sacred and safe harbor group of lightworkers who are connecting, encouraging, empowering, and supporting human kindness together. The Lightworkers Connection Circle is led by Universal Master Healer Sheila Tillich and takes place on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. To save your seat, head on over to sheilatillich.com/lightworkers-connection-circle. You can also find the link to register in the show notes of this episode. Now back to you, Sheila.
We must learn to be slow.
Yep.
To go. And it helps us be clear. It helps us be on where we want to be. And so I have channeled in different ways. I have channeled using the word we. I have channeled using the word I. I have channeled in accents multiple times because I'm still a novice. And we together are learning how the best way to transmit the information, that knowledge needs to be shared. It'll be becoming much more clear in a few weeks, but we needed to go through the different ways of practicing, of going forth to how do I need it to be heard. See right there, like they just changed how I needed to be heard because I need to be validated for myself to have that sense. But it is always a combination of a message for you and a message to share for those that need to hear it at the right time. Now I'm going to come into a little, when we channel, a lot of times it is a message for others to hear, for us to validate, because we're letting it come out to others, but we do need to validate it for ourselves as I'm talking to myself and going through this process. You can interrupt me anytime you want. I do talk a lot.
I really just admit it.
I talk a lot and I'll keep on going. And so that's how I got into that part of it. And for me, the one big thing I have learned, and I'm doing it now, I'm doing it now because I activate my pineal gland. And the way to do that, and the most effective way of doing that, is by closing your eyes. Because when you close your eyes, you're bringing in the darkness. The darkness comes in, and what it does is sends the breath through, and it really activates the melatonin and the crystals inside your pineal gland. See, we're getting science to this. And when you can activate that melatonin is such a beneficial chemical. It's an autoimmune chemical. It is phenomenal. But when it comes through, it does so much more. The little crystals, they're 20 micro, I can't even say it, tiny little crystals inside your pineal gland. And when those get activated, what you're doing is that is ultimately an antenna that's coming out, like those old rabbit ears on a TV. You're activating that, it's coming out. And so I tend to close my eyes right now because it works best for me. And I didn't notice this until maybe a few weeks ago when I realized I did it. That actually Lee does that too.
Yeah. So
yes, go.
Yeah. There's so many ways of channeling, and I've had the opportunity to be around the best in the world, and have been mentored by them. But also, I was a channeler way before I even met them. So when we talk about Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, and we talk about Marilyn Harper, who channels Adirondha, those are top channelers in the world, and I have learned a lot from them. But what Spirit has shown me, and that I have been a channeler since I was a little girl, and that I had to grow into it the way that is to be used for humanity. And when I started channeling in my classes, I would speak really fast. The energy was coming through, and I go on and on. We've talked about that many times, and many different entities come through. When we say entities, we're just talking about the soul oneness. And when you were talking about the pineal gland, opening up, absolutely. It's like training our brain to respond to this opening, and kind of understanding it is kind of like what we need to understand. And for people that hear us channel, they kind of say, what's going on here? This is kind of freaky. What are you talking about? Light language. But channeling is so much more than just light language. It is thought and feelings, and it's the soul speaking through. And every single one of us channel it differently, and then we channel the same. It's all about the Christ consciousness, opening up that pineal gland, opening up the frequency in your brain, the receptors, to be able to let it flow. And that's where us trying to explain to people what is channeling. It's about your consciousness, your awakening of that ability that you have as a soul to let it come through. And for me, I've channeled for years, many different, and I would ask, who's channeling? And they would come through. But the thing is that you don't need to know who. It's just that it is.
Right.
It is. And that you shared about the Reiki, came through when you did Reiki. And Marilyn Harper's story is a lot like that too, is when Soul and Adirondha and a lot of the entities started coming through her when she had her, when she was doing Reiki, that she learned Reiki, and it scared the heck out of her. She didn't know what she was doing, but this was like 20 years ago.
Right.
So I love how Carrie, she's seen that in you, and she was saying, yes, and it's like, that's the connection with the universe of our soul being connected. And you also talked about, the lower vibration and the higher vibration, and about the lower vibration can channel too. Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of know, go inside, and we kind of know what the real deal is, just like Esther Hicks and Lee Carroll and Adirondha, they are the real deal, and we know that. And for us to be patient with ourselves, if we feel that we're channeling or want to channel or learn about it, be patient, and it will happen. And closing the eyes, keeping the eyes open. Everybody is different. Everybody is different, and I just came back from last weekend. I was with Marilyn Harper and how to channel, even if you think you can't, and many of the people there were just starting on their channeling journey or awakening to what is going on. And I love how Lee Carroll talks about it too, about having many years ago, he had many channelers on stage with him, and everybody does it differently, and for you do it both. You do it with your eyes open and closed. All right. And the same with me. I do it the same way. I can do it both ways, all the ways, which I love. Some people, like they say, they go in. Marilyn talks about Adirondha putting her into the bathroom. She goes into the bathroom, or she steps out. And Lee talks about, it's so funny. And Lee talks about, his partner steps away,
Right.
The difference with Marilyn and Lee is that Lee channels, he has to be able to have his eyes closed because and also stay still. He can't move around because he'll fall. And I've seen him fall. I've seen that happen. And when he opens his eyes, it's the frequency is so strong, and he made a deal with Source that when he channels, he wants to be in control. So he knows everything that's happening, just like I'm in control. I know everything that's happening. And I'm allowing it to happen because my soul knows, and to come to that comfort zone of allowing it to happen. Marilyn is a different story. She is phenomenal. Of course, you can see it, the transformation, and she has superpowers. She gets up on chairs and she uses, the selenite sword, and she does all this stuff. And her physical body, can't do that, And so it's like evidence of spirit coming through. And I love how when you channel, whether you use a light language or not, the peace that comes over.
Yes.
That is when you know it's real. And when I channel the Star Mothers, they say to me, it's not you. Your voice is different. Just like now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, I know. And that's why it's the merging of one as souls when we channel. And that is beautiful. We feel it in our heart center. We feel it in our brains. We feel the opening of our pineal gland. We feel it, and it's the vibration that goes out.
See, there's two things you said there, which I want to get back
Please.
on.
Yes, absolutely.
So one was, you mentioned the differences in how they channel and the agreement Lee made with Cryon about, I want to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's very important for anyone to understand, especially if you were in this and you feel like, oh, I'd like to channel, or I want to learn this, or it's happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
You always have the control. Anything to do with spirit, anything to do with any of this.
Absolutely.
You are the ultimate controller. You can say, the parable that just came to my mind is one of the parables Cryon shared, the brooms. And the short, quick version of it is, Woe, who is the name of the person in the story, is in his room and he notices something out of the corner of his eye. Now we know it was his guides ready to come through to talk with him. He goes, oh, no, I don't want to deal. He doesn't know what it is. Whatever he does, he asks it to leave.
The fear.
And so it left. And it happens 3 or 4 times. And each time it goes a little farther, but he always asks it to leave, and it always respects that and leaves. And eventually he passes away and he realized, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was then all that stuff. And so we always have that ability to control, because we are here for the experience that we want to have in this experience. And so we control that. They are here to guide us when we ask for it. And that's a big thing. Being able to ask for it. Ask for help. I never did that until maybe even months ago. And then it really started going, and I asked for help for this. And in fact, we talked about Medi and the fire walk. Jeff did a reading for me the other night, and what he said to me resonated very well.
And, I know.
And then
awesome.
I took in the information that that Stacia would say to me and say, where's the action? And so literally the next day when I did my meditation, I put the action to it and asked for this and made that the intention for what I want to come forward, because I've been waiting for it, but I've been patient and taking the time.
Yeah.
But we always had the control to say, I don't want to do this. I don't want this. It's not for me. I'm going to live a different life. And that's fine. In fact, I shared it last time, part of my story. The first person that I met that really opened me up, and we dated for a little bit, and the whole pregnancy story and all that stuff.
Right.
Hard. It took 2 years, but then I had the dream. And the dream was very clear to me. There I was on a ship going up. I don't know if it was a boat, whatever it was, but the other ship was going down. And I heard a noise, and we were like, we're looking for this treasure. We got it. I knew I was looking for treasure. I never found it. And then I heard a noise, and there was like one of those submarine latches that opens up. And I knew she was there, and she was talking, and it was like, I already gave it to you. And they were having a party down there.
Yeah.
Because she had her choice to choose her path on the career, and she was staying in the 3D, the human side of it. I had made the choice years ago to go to the different level. And I had known I had got the gift. I knew I could close the hatch and they were going to go down. They were going to have a blast. Everything was perfect the way she wanted it to be, and she's going to be happy. And I was going to be where I needed to be. And I needed that closure, and the choices that we both made were right there. And it was good. So we have that choice. But here's a really interesting thing on the channeling side of it. Okay. Because this is all that's coming to me now. But I mentioned this a few weeks ago with someone else. When we were first brought to the planet as humans, we were first here, we talk about the 7 chakras most commonly, from the crown chakra to the third eye, to the throat, to the heart, to the solar plexus, to sacral, the root chakra. Okay. There's many more. But it was often believed, in what it was written about, was the 10th chakra was inside the body, was a physical piece of the human. And that chakra was a chakra that connected us to the 11th and the 12th, which were way above our heads, which is where the spiritual realm would be. It was often believed, and you look at the old texts and look at like the Eye of Horus and all the stuff, the pineal gland is where the 10th chakra was. And so it is still within us. The biggest thing that happened, now you're going to, all right, see, I'm going here. The biggest thing that happened, with going back to history and science now, is when we were first here in the first societies, they were matriarchal. It was the females that were spiritual. The males could do it too, and some females didn't have to do it, but it was the females that really resonated and grasped this. And so they knew how it was connected, and they had this. The males ended up being more of the balanced society of the 3D and the 5D and the spiritual, more of that, okay? But eventually what happened is the male society took over, and we became a patriarchal society. And as that happened, what you would guess and would make complete sense is the things that the matriarchal society valued and held, and the knowledge shrunk to limited people that had those capabilities and knowledge, because now we are all trying to be like the male society wanted us to be, what they understood, what the male species understood. And so it changed. And so you can say it used to physically be there. Is it physically there anymore? Well, I think it is. Pineal gland is still there. It's not as dominant, not as known as it was before. We are now on the switch. We are starting to go back to a matriarchal, balanced society. And so when we talked about it the first time we spoke, there are more people coming out, more people awakening. Well, this is happening because the time is right. I won't even go into what the scientists said. Oh my goodness, time zero is like right now. So imagine being at time zero when like Christ was around, all this stuff, what we call zero. We are in time zero right now. We just don't know it yet. We are in that time from the early years of the newest generations coming up, this new period. And I say that, but I'm going to go back and say, it's not me saying that. All the research that has been done with the ancient societies all say this time period alone is the co-creation, the age of creation. It's a whole new time period that they did not know was going to happen. In fact, the Mayan calendar, I know, I'm a science guy. Mayan calendar actually ends December 12th, 1992. December 2012 was, if we were on the wrong path, that would have been the official done. But instead, we went on the different path, and we are on this co-creation enlightened path, which many of the societies in the Mayan calendar said these 20 years were years of uncertainty, leading us to either one or two ways. Thus, 20 years was going to determine which path we were going on. And now we see what path we're on.
Exactly.
And that is all opening us up more to be able to channel, to be able to be connected more spirit, be able to manifest, be able to co-create, be able to do much more. We're seeing that a higher consciousness is coming out because of this change, because of where we are.
Yeah. And some of you viewers might know that I was involved with the Lemurian Sisterhood for many years, part of the Cryon team. And what we talk about the first lifetime as humans in Lemuria, and the female and the male, the actual relationships that they have, and how society was. And yes, this is the time that we are balancing, we are coming alive. Our DNA that was given to us by our Pleiadian star mothers, all right, is awakened. And yes, it is. This is the time of the new human. And Cryan talks about it all the time, and I talk about the harmonic convergence. And that's going to be another topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, things that are happening now as we awaken, and this has been very enlightening, Thomas. And I love sharing with you. And I'd like to invite you back for have another podcast. All right. So we can continue talking about this. And during this awakening time, every single one of us are awakened in our own way and going through different things. And you and I share something very profound of that we both had COVID.
I was just going to say it.
We both had COVID and we both were in the hospital, and it was very life-changing for us. And I think the next one we're going to do is we're going to continue this talk about this time of our awakening the pineal gland and what we're here to do and our soul's purpose, what our mission is, and how COVID affected both of us. And it was part of the plan. And we said, we said yes.
And again, just give a little tease, because I think it's just, I say this now, and I'm saying it more public. We're in the shift.
Oh,
we've been under the control of a more low vibrational leadership.
Exactly.
For centuries. But what often happens, okay. All right. I know we're almost out of time. So what often happens, we're going to just end with this. What often happens is we always talk about change. How can we change our lives? How can we change the world? Changing happens in a very specific way in the masses. If you want to change yourself, you do it yourself. It's controlled by yourself because you are yourself making the change. But in order to make a drastic change in the world, a change in direction, something has to happen. And so I'm going to go back to this. I'm not going to go into great detail right now, but think about World War II.
Mm-hmm.
World War II happened for a very specific reason to change the world. We had to change in order to get us on the path that we are actually on right now. We were not going in that path prior to then. We were on a different destination, the one we didn't want, the one that was prophesized. World War II was a big change, a catalyst to make us open up and change. Think about what happened literally right after the World War II, everything got calmed down again. We're going to skip the 50s. We went to the 60s and the 70s. Okay. Love. That boom came out and it changed everything. Once again, we were in a new state, but we had to make this drastic change of the universe. We needed to start changing things. Now, I'm not going to go into the full theory behind this, but COVID had to happen. And it's neat because people are saying, God, why God did you make this happen? Well, we'll talk about this because really, if COVID was created to continue the power of the low, well, I'll use the word God in a sense, but spirit, the high vibration said, yes, go for it. Because the result is high.
Exactly.
Because we lost people, and it's never good and never fun, but it's when they come back, they're automatically coming back in a higher vibration, which automatically raises the vibration of the earth, which automatically makes those in the low vibration lower and less. And that was what happened. And so I going on a major tangent here that can go in so many different directions, but it's things like that need to happen that change the world for so many better things. There are casualties always, unfortunately, but we knew those coming in.
Exactly.
We just can't acknowledge that as humans because we don't get that memory. But when we leave, we are so celebrated, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is the time we're in. I want to come back, and I want to come back as soon as possible.
Exactly. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just want to continue with this, but we need to close this for now. And we're going to continue this. All right. So number 3, and we're going to continue right where we left off, this excitement about changes and about what's coming and us coming back on the podcast and us coming back in another lifetime to continue all this beautiful, beautiful changes that we're having here. So,
absolutely.
Okay. So for my viewers, Thomas, if they could get a hold of you, is there somewhere that they can get a hold of you?
So there's two ways. I mean, the simplest way is I am on Facebook. We're all on Facebook.
Yeah.
My name is actually Thomas, middle initial D. Then my last name, Iwankow. It's a crazy last name, so there's not many people like that with me. But you can also email me at any point. My initials TD Iwankow, which is IWANKOW @gmail.com. Either one works. I'm very open to. I don't have like a shop or a store or anything. That's not who I am.
That's right.
My presence and my purpose is different.
Right.
And it's to work with people that are in these states to help them grow themselves and to become who they are meant to be, so they can then go on and share their gifts with others in a way that is such a blessing to them, to the ones they share it with, and to the world.
Yeah. And you just explained what the Lightworkers Connection is. Exactly. So if you need, also you can find Thomas on the Lightworkers Connection when I have that on Tuesday nights on my website. All my events are on my website. The Firewalk that's coming up next month, September, is on my website, and also Lightworkers Connection. So, okay, Thomas, thank you for spending this time with me, and I'm excited. And I will be connecting with you very shortly with our third podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.
Bye.